Well, good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. Today, summer edition 2025. It is Wonderful Wednesday. Wonderful Wednesday is the day that I give God gratitude, thankfulness, and praise here on social media. Giving Him one day a week on the social platform, but giving Him praise daily. Okay, so here we go. I have been walking. I have delayed my walk. Because I wanted to do my walk during my morning view. Now, I went out on my walk and it was not connecting. And I know that sometimes it buffers out. So I have to wait and get interrupted in the process of doing the morning view. You know what that does to this sometimes. It's trying to stay focused, but the focus is not always there. So, those squirrel moments. Alright, and we're not going to blame it on the squirrels. Because squirrels, I think I've only had maybe 2 actual squirrel moments where it involves squirrels. Okay, so if you are on Facebook watching this, like, share, comment. If you are on YouTube, like, share, comment, subscribe. Right there, the button is right there, subscribe, and hit notifications. That way you'll know when I'm live, because I'm going to have to test this out. I delayed my walk so that I could do my morning view while on my walk. I mean, you usually get my backyard, you usually get my deck, because I usually can't go further than the deck, but my husband put on a different I guess network. I don't know what it's called. It gives me a little bit more expanse, but it still doesn't always work perfectly. And I've got data hotspot on, so, not much of that around here either. We've got more antennas up, but they don't seem to help that much. They do help, but not that much. There's still blind spots as we go down the mountain, or if we're in little gullies or any of that. All right, so that's all the housekeeping stuff, commercial, all that jazz. When you go over to YouTube, remember that this video will be uploaded either tonight or tomorrow for YouTube purposes, because that's why I need subscriptions, so that I can do my videos there and then just share them here. Instead, I have to do them here, upload them, and then put them into YouTube. It's extra steps. And so because of those extra steps, it's like, I'm a little bit on the lazy side. I don't want to do extra steps, especially when it comes to tech. So there's that. All right. What I'm thanking the Lord for this week, I am thanking Him that the weather has changed from basically winter to summer. We had a lot of rain during the springtime. A lot of rain. And, you can tell, look at the green. There's green everywhere. It's wonderful. Rain is a necessity. Rain is something that we need, and I thank God for rain. But to have rain every single weekend, and a lot of the weekdays where the kids had to have indoor recess, and it got to the point where it's like, we're just taking them out. The older ones anyway. So I thank God that I have off for the summer. So I get my summers off. I thank God that from my W-2 job. That doesn't mean I'm doing nothing. But it seems like I'm doing nothing because I'm not getting anything, quote, accomplished. However, I get to spend time with my grandbaby. And that, priority, absolute priority. And so having the ability to spend time with my grandchild is just wonderful. I would love to spend time with my grandson because he's home from college, but between work and his social life, that doesn't always, we pass, we get hugs, but no real time investment. And that would be wonderful, but again, you know, a young man, so everybody knows who has a young man in their life, knows how that can be. Even young ladies, possibly, you know, they're out doing their thing. So I thank God that I get the opportunity to spend time with family. Because when I worked in the corporate world, I did not spend time with my family. I spent time in my cubicle. I spent time in their, before the cubicle days, in their branches. I spent time, I was part-time slime. And in that part-time slime, I was doing 13 to 14 hours a day on most days because they could not keep part-time employees. And I worked 6 days a week. And then when I went to corporate, there was years where I worked 7 days a week. There's a reason why God says to take the seventh day and make it holy. Because I did not. I worked in an abusive workplace environment, toxic environment. And man, if you don't get a break, if you're called to that, if you don't get a break from that at least one day, then God's not going to be able to help you if you don't help yourself. There is something there that that says you do have to help yourself. You have to want it. You have to want God more than the paycheck. You have to want God more than the job. Oh, that's what that came down to. I'm getting closer to my house, and it buffered. My goodness. All right, so not to get on a rant on that subject, but it's important to follow the instructions that God gives you, right? Oh, that falls right into a thought that I had this morning about following instructions. So I thank God that He does give us instructions. I have to switch hands because the sun is on that side, and I'm going to blind you. All right. Don't want to blind you. So I thank God that He gives us instructions. Those instructions are in His Word. Now, He can give you instructions with the still small voice. He can give you instructions via a mentor that is reliable, of His source, of sourcing His information from God. There are a lot of people that source information from the world, and sometimes even the enemy. And when you do that, it seems right, but again, he likes to put 99% of the truth in front of you with that 1% lie. And it's like, okay, I remember, it's almost like Memory Monday. I remember when I was, when we first got computers back in the 80s, and I remember having a Commodore. I remember the Commodore 128 when we went to the Commodore 128. You had to type in your instructions from like PC Magazine, right? And as you typed in those instructions, you were very meticulous to make sure you had a colon instead of a program. So I wasn't a, quote, computer programmer, but I put the instructions into the program. And as I put the instructions into the program, voila, lo and behold, you had a game. Something like, I'm back, buffering again. So something like Icebreakers or something. There was a simple game, nothing complex. And so you did that, and you'd have a game. But sometimes that game would freeze. And it's like, why did it freeze? So you went back, and you looked through all those codes again. Did I do it right, in sequence, do everything that needed to be done? And then, once you found the error, voila, the game worked. Sometimes the error wasn't yours. Sometimes the magazine had an error. And then you would have to wait for the correction when the next magazine came. And then once you fixed the correction, well, then the game would work. So in life, we have to follow the instructions. And if we mess up, if we don't get the instructions right, we can go back and look through and find out what the correct instructions are. And then if stuff still doesn't happen, guess what? You don't have to wait till the next magazine comes out because the answers are all there. The difference is are we seeing it? Are we seeing the answers? Sometimes they're so in front of us that we miss it. You know, I know several people, and I've done it myself back in the day, where I had an accident. I did not see the other car. It's like, where were they? You know, they were going a little too fast in the fog, and by the time the police got there, there was no fog. So it's like, well, why didn't you see him? And he was coming up over a hill. Why didn't you see him? I didn't see him. I just didn't. He hit me. I did not hit him. But it was still deemed my fault. I think there's more to it than that. But the problem is that something can be right in front of you and you don't see it. You don't see the answer in front of you. How many times sometimes I play these little games, these little tile games, and you have to match 3, right? And so when you match the 3, you know, you get to match another 3. But if you mess up in your sequence, you only have so many spots for the tiles. So when you mess up, it's like, whoa, those 3 were sitting there and I didn't even see them. And if I would have done those 3, then the next 3 would have been revealed because they're right behind it. And sometimes we just don't see it. Our car broke down on Father's Day. We're there in the parking lot forever. Now, I would have never seen it because I would not have known what to look for. But my husband's just... Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm buffering. All right. So my husband was flipping through the manual, and it kept coming to transmission. And we're like, oh my God. We haven't had this car for that long, and now there's a transmission issue. Ugh. Now, luckily, I found out that we do have a warranty on that transmission, so that's good. But the point was, man, already with the transmission, we've had transmission. Everything is electrical in this thing. The gear shift, everything. It's by push button. It's not a manual shifting of gears. I'm back. With that, I'm going to stop and take a break. All right. Let's see. Where was I halfway down the hill ago? Oh, I have to think for a moment. Instructions. My husband was flipping through the manual, seeing the transmission come up. So for the last time before we were going to go call a tow truck, he looks in the engine and he sees the linkage is disconnected. The little bolt, plastic bolt for the linkage was broken. So he was able to take the linkage and put it back in enough to get the car to the dealership. Then he found out that he could buy the part cheaper, so he bought the part cheaper and we drove home instead of leaving it there for the next day for them to fix. It had to do with looking at the instruction manual. The instruction manual gave him a clue. It wasn't right there in the open to see what was going on, but yet it was. All he had to do was look into the engine compartment, looking for what he was looking for. The air conditioner is loud. I have my hearing aids in. I apologize for that, because that's probably being picked up louder than my voice. All right. So I was looking at the instructions that helped him to see what the problem was. The problem didn't say it was a linkage problem. The problem didn't say that the linkage little plastic bolt thingy was broken. It just said that there was a transmission issue. But in the process, it gave him clues to what to look for. And so in life, what to look for, close to our house, and there it is, buffering, I'm mumbling, you caught me mumbling on Wonderful Wednesday, but not going ballistic. All right, so it's in life, we are given instructions and we're given clues. And even when something is right in front of you, he could see it when he knew what to look for. He could see it. But it wasn't spelled out for him. And life isn't spelled out for us. And every now and then somebody says, oh, God instructed me to do this, I did it, and now everything is wonderful. Well, wonderful for you, thank you. And I will celebrate with you for what God has done. I usually have not had that experience. And because I have not had that experience, I cannot come to you with that experience and say, oh, all you have to do is do what God tells you to do. And then, I'm constantly hearing people say, oh, his children hear his voice. Oh, one way to irritate me. Because I still telling me to do something, or is this the enemy telling me to do that something with 99% truth? And because of that, I always wonder. I'm back. It doesn't like it in the valley. Little blind spots. I thought about taking another route, starting another route after this week is done, because this is warm-up week. But with sketchy Wi-Fi, I'm not sure whether that is wise. So it brings me to this space of this. Do I do my walks earlier, I still attempt the internet. So we can do our walks earlier because I waited until after 8 in order to do my Morning View Live, because that's when most of the people are normally used to watching me. However, it's getting way too hot in the summer to walk at 8 o'clock. The last 3 days have been brutal. So, with that, do I start it earlier? Or do I do my walks earlier and then do my Morning View when I get back, where you guys are just seeing my backyard again? The tech, it's been an issue from the beginning. It has. But I'm still able to do this. We just got to figure out which way to do it is best. So, going back to the manual, going back to the instructions. Hello. Okay, so we were talking about following the instructions in the manual. Following the instructions. Good morning. Following the instructions that are given to us. If you come into a situation where the problem is not where you can see it, it might not be in front of you. It may be hidden. But it could be in front of you and you're just not seeing it. Thank you, God, that you give us instructions. Thank you, God, that you give us a manual. And that's where I'm leaving you with today. Blessings and have a great day. I will see you tomorrow for Thirsty Thinking Thursday. Remember, go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison. Different than my Facebook profile, Mona E. Harrison, and subscribe. All right, blessings, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Almost said mañana. Bye.